Gormagat, Chair, and welcome to Carmel, to John and to Pádraig. I think this is very significant, and I think why it's significant you've been here this morning is because within this committee there's cross-party support. So I think we need to come out of this meeting today with a number of very concrete decisions that are going to help you going forward. I had the very humbling experience of joining you for a few days of the inquest, and seeing firsthand what you were going through, and just resonated with me when Carmel said about the attitude of some of the soldiers in terms of the witnesses given. It was just the attitude and the demeanour I found most shocking in that, and I can absolutely understand what the lack of justice and how that's preventing you from healing as a family, the lack of accountable justice that you still need to get. And that is the challenge that you're putting up for us today, in how we do that, and in looking at the deficit in the implementation of the Stormont House agreement. But I suppose my first question is, can you put into words how the families felt when Justice Keegan declared that all those who were killed were innocent, and that you knew that you had succeeded in correcting the lies that demonised and dehumanised your loved ones? That's my first question. And maybe just to John, in terms of the right to the independent investigation, specifically what we need to do to move that on to make sure that that happens in a speedy way, if you can say speedy after 50 years. And maybe just to talk in terms of the terms of reference that you would need within that investigation as well. And maybe to suggest to the committee from here that we write cross-party solidly to the British Prime Minister, specifically asking what we need him to do at this moment in time, and indeed what we need our Taoiseach to do in terms of putting his pressure on the British Prime Minister as well. Because I get what you're saying, John, in terms of we need more than words. We need the pressure. So if you can just let us know in exactly how you would see that pressure manifesting itself from the committee here today. And I just want to thank you again for being here, and just to maybe endorse what Paul has said in terms of us visiting the site of the Ballymurphy massacre, but also the Springfield massacre as well, as soon as regulations allow us to do that. Gormagat.
See, is back there.
Yeah, Chair. Sorry, if I can come back in here and just to finish. I was just saying that the British government have closed down the criminal justice route, saying that we look forward, not back. And do you have any faith in that, and how would the families navigate around that situation? And both, the other point is, what can we do as political parties, all the political parties here and outside of here, and what can the Irish government do to ensure that the justice and accountability for the actions of the British Army 50 years ago can actually now be brought to justice? And I do believe that the idea of an amnesty for those, a criminal act has been carried out here, murders have been committed, and what we need actually then is a response to that, which people are charged, and that the criminal justice procedure is actually followed through. So thank you. Sorry for the disruption in my appreciating it, okay?
Thank you. Is there anybody else from Sinn Féin who'd like to speak now? Have I covered all members there then? Okay, so if John, Carmel or Pádraig would like to respond, please, to any of those points, you're welcome to come in.
I think I can respond to Rose's question just on she referred to terms of reference for any investigation. I think in short it's the opposite of what they got in 1971. We had a sham process whereby the police responsibility was usurped to investigate crimes. We had an arrangement between the General Officer Command of the Army and the Chief Constable, which meant that lethal force used by soldiers was investigated by the Royal Military Police. And we've seen throughout the Ballymurphy inquest that the Royal Military Police were involved in the falsification of statements. and that came through clear and loud at the inquest. What we need, and Stormont House is a route to this, is an independent investigation which has the appropriate powers to compel documents and witnesses. And, that won't happen. There won't be cooperation, for example, from the MOD unless we have this on a statutory basis. It must take a multidisciplinary approach to that investigation. It must have access to whatever forensic techniques that are required for any modern police type investigation. So it's very, very clear. But the key issue is independence. The family have never had an independent investigation, and that's something they have a right to and deserve. But we have a framework. We simply don't have the implementation of that framework of the Stormont House Agreement. So we would ask this committee, and I think I'm pushing an open door, listening to the members of the committee today, is to continue to call for the British government to implement fully their responsibilities under the Stormont House Agreement, and to oppose proposals for amnesties for soldiers.
Thank you. Thank you for your support. Does John or Carmel wish to comment on that? Or
can I come in there, please?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
There's a lot to cover there. I have to agree with Paddy on the independent investigations, and there is mechanisms there that need to be implemented. With the Stormont Agreement, the HIU, and if that is properly put together with acceptable leadership, that'd be good once that put in place for a number of reasons, and it's for people the whole way across the board. You need to be seeing that, but also we still have to remember, but like I said earlier, about the funding for mechanisms, the funding for the legal system that's actually mechanisms that we have in place at the minute. We need to back that up and making sure that funding for the them two offices aren't protected or lost along the way. Francie was saying about the roller coaster. It was a roller coaster. It was an emotional roller coaster. We thought we were hardened campaigners get into the inquest, and thought we knew it all when we investigated the deaths of our loved ones ourselves. But once you go into detail of how they died, the pain they would have suffered, the injuries, and how they were left to bleed to death in certain cases also, it was very challenging for the families. And also when we brought in the pen pictures of our loved ones, we actually brought them, our loved ones, into the courtroom, and that was the idea of them not as another statistic of people who were murdered in Ballymurphy, but actually bringing them in, who they were, what their character was, who they left behind, how the families were impacted on all that. So it was, like I said, it was a roller coaster. Cross-party support, as Rose was saying, we can see what we have at the minute, but again, things need to be implemented. We have Andy Kenny and Stephen Coveney and Ballymurphy who visited the sites. I know people were Mary Lou and different ones had come forward and visited the sites and walked in the footsteps of our loved ones also. That'd be really, really welcome for families. It'd be a big lift for the likes of when you had the Spring Hill massacre, where my daddy was murdered. There was this is how these murders are linked in the Ballymurphy area. Where my daddy was murdered, there was an 11-year-old boy who was severely wounded in the field and stayed with daddy. He was actually an eyewitness till how the victims were treated by the army and they came into the field. His daddy, Paddy Butler, was murdered along with another priest exactly 11 months, 9th of July, 1972. So that's in a small area, and it was at the spot where John McCurr was murdered, outside the church, or outside Corpus Christi Church. So there is a lot just in that one area alone, and you have to remember all the children, like Martha Campbell, all these different children murdered by rubber bullets and all these different things. It wasn't just adults; it was our children. They were murdered also. So in their own area, playing their own area. So one of the things that I came across when we were campaigning is archives, and it helps, and we continue to help. I have to say that it was difficult when we had turned our attention on the archives held by the Southern government, and I know that Dublin of Bombing families as the same. I think that needs to be more accessible. Rather than requesting, that should be open to family members, to who are the experts in a way of how their loved ones died, of what information they're looking for. So that's one of the things we had found difficult when we went down the south. But like I say, when Andy Kenny came to Ballymurphy, what Andy says on that day, he also met the Kingsmill families also. And he says he was going to lead by example. So here's what we need to do with the Irish government: need the lead by example.
Yeah.
Thank you.
To make a contribution as well, Carmel.
Yeah, it's just to answer.
You okay? You're fine.
It's just to answer Rose's question about how the families felt. The night before, I couldn't sleep at all because it was just the anticipation of what was going to be delivered. When Justice Keegan did deliver her findings, I felt felt overjoyed, but also felt very, very, very sad. You know, here we were 50 years later, my lifetime. My mummy wasn't there, my daddy, my eldest sister Tilly had passed away on Christmas Eve 2014. She had went through the courts with my daddy because my mummy wasn't able in 1972 for the first inquest, which was a sham, as we all know. But the findings, it made me feel a bit relieved because my mummy had asked me and my other sister to prove to the world that her son posed no threat. You know, he was innocent, and we did do that. But it was the same day that the Queen was making her speech, and to us, you know, we were waiting on, right, so we've got these findings, we'll have the truth. Are we going to be denied justice now? And then the next day, when the Secretary of State for the 6 counties gave a so-called apology, it totally deflated the families again. You know, you're way up there and you're feeling, right, we've did this, and then you're being deflated again because they've give you the truth, but they're taking away justice. You know, but as a family, we still feel, you know, we did that for my mummy, we did that for my brother, but now we need accountability as a family.